Welcome to NSIC Weekly. Per usual, Tom Frederick and Matt Witwicky, your intrepid reporters here on duty. I'm the voice of the University of Sioux Falls. Matt covers the Northern Sun for D2Football.com. Just think of us as the 2024 version of Rocky the Flying Squirrel and Bullwinkle the Moose. I've been watching that old cartoon on DVD of late, and I almost went with Mr. Peabody and Sherman, but I didn't think you'd get that reference.
Is that a Mr. Ed thing or something?
You're not familiar with the pair from Frostbite Falls and the Wayback Machine?
No, you use the Wayback Machine all the time. It's just I can't locate where that Wayback Machine is heading.
I'm telling you, finding duos to compare us to is getting a little thin about this time of year. You know?
Well, Coach OJ and some of the others will appreciate your old references, as he is he's given you kudos on those before.
Say, speaking of OJ, you and I were both at Kirkby Over Stadium at Augustana on Saturday for the 12th edition of the Key to the City game. The defending league champion Vikings and USF. I met several Augustana fans who let's just say they enjoy the show immensely, and they were surprised. They went out of their way to tell me that they were happy that I picked Augustana to win that game. The contest could have easily gone either way. You were there, you witnessed it. It was a pick'em game. Augie got its first home win in the series. In my opinion, KO, as we're looking from the booth there where we sit, you just saw Chad Berger, our sideline buddy, Tim Hyatt, myself. KO, one of the best venues, one of the best views in the league to call a game. Some Augie fans, though, two booths to our right, just on the other side of the Cougar coaching staff. You see that water bottle on the right picture there, on the right side of the picture? That's the Cougar coaches right next to me.
Oh, okay.
And a booth right over next to them, some Augie faithful, let's put it that way. I think they dipped a little bit too much into the adult beverage supply, and they were less than hospitable hosts, if you know what I mean.
Were they helping call plays from up there?
Perhaps. They took the rivalry thing a little bit too far. But for Tim, for Chad, for me, things went smooth as silk. For whatever reason, though, you declined to come up and help us kill some time at halftime. You must have been, you didn't want to, consort with the hoi polloi.
Well, no, I knew that you guys had something to do, and I really honestly didn't have plans on heading on over there at half. And then I had to take a leak, and then that changed everything. So, and the fact that they had pizza over there kind of only made that walk a little bit easier, especially when it's from our sponsor. But, Tom, as we go ahead, let's go ahead and pop through a few photos here. We can see a little bit of the USF side, kind of fired on up here, ready to go. Alex Anderson kind of leading that group there. And then, oh, look at this. I ran across the radio crew there. I see I had my high beams on apparently for the shot, but and Berger doing his best to suck it in as long as he could. While your friend was taking the photo, Berger was hyperventilating by the time that photo was over with.
Looks like the two guys on the left there are trying out for Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade balloons.
Easy. Be nice. Be nice. And a funny moment here, campus security gets called on the USF fans for putting those 6 flags that you see back there into the ground. And you can see the police officer in the middle of the shot straight on through. He politely asked the Coup fans to take them down. And, this is kind of the stuff that makes a rivalry, the back and forth that we're talking about between the fan bases. And, some small things, sometimes a little bit of a venom. I enjoy these type of rivalries. Sometimes, you get to go to a game and, your energy level as a fan may not be there as much or as, taking on the game. This one here, I'm excited before I leave the house, ready to go to this one. And one thing I do want to mention, Tom, is once I got into the stadium, out of respect for this Augustana football team and the program that OJ has built, they deserve better than this support. And Matt Zimmer brought it to light here. And, the Augie, the USF side was pretty full and had a lot of energy. And this is not the game to be a fair weather fan. And I'm saying that as a person who covers this. In the 5 games that have been at KO in this series, they have done outstanding with attendance. And I was disappointed because I thought it took a little away from the energy that should be in this game and in this rivalry. And, this team is a Northern Sun champion. It's going to be 2 years straight. Show up and support this team, Augustana. And that's all I'm going to say about that. But
in the 5 previous games, they had, I think, a high of 7,120 in the first ever meeting.
A pretty consistent number near there.
Over the 5 games, the average attendance was 6,500. The official stat page shows that Saturday, 4,220 fans in the seats.
I know it. But still a fantastic game. But I just wanted to kind of stand up and take my own opportunity to say something about that.
I want to say something here, too. All those photos that you showed were from the USF side. How come you didn't make your way over to the Augie tailgate?
You know what? I was so busy in this group here, if we're going to be really, really frank about this.
He means
when we were back here amongst this group, I had so many people, Tom, on the USF side who wanted to come chat about our show. No, very seriously. They could not believe that you picked against the Cougars. And at the same time, I had Kate Glogowski, Jim Glogowski's wife, come up to me, and she was angry with me for picking Sioux Falls, almost like I had to take it back because they were on a roll with me picking the other way, that I can't win in this. So, some folks are going to get mad at me for going the other way. Some folks are going to want me to keep going the other way. Same with you, Tom. So you and I just need to kind of come to the conclusion that we're going to pick whoever we're going to pick, and people are going to say whatever they're going to say, and it is what it is. Now the fact that you can't ride the bus anymore, that's a whole different story.
I pick who I think is going to win the games. And if you take a look at our pick'em standings a little bit later on in the show, I'm not very good at picking. So,
well, this isn't the new thing. We didn't just arrive at that. But let's go ahead and move right on into the week. And we'll get into this game in a moment. But great game, still a good environment. I would have really liked it to kind of take in that next notch. But Tom, I'll let you start in with the players of the week.
There they are. 2 of the 3 NSIC players of the week participated in that key to the city game, won by Augustana, 27-21 over Sioux Falls. Nick Corner in the NSIC's home office in beautiful downtown Burnsville, Minnesota, selected Augustana's Jared Epperson as the offensive honoree, the graduate student out of Omaha's Scott High School. He ran 18 times for better than 200 yards, 2 touchdowns, runs of 62 and 47 yards. And then he also caught a screen pass for 75 yards. This guy in his career, Witt, well over 4,000 yards rushing, over 1,000 yards in receptions, and 38 touchdowns.
Well, and he's been there long enough that I was going through some 2019 highlights of the Key to the City game, and if I'm not mistaken, he was wearing number 16 scoring touchdowns. This was before COVID. So to say he's been there for a while, and right now the Cougar fans are going to be happy to see him be done playing here sooner than later, because he was a massive home run hitter and factor in this game.
The man in the middle here on the screen, Augustana linebacker Cade Lynott. He's the defensive pick. He's from nearby Hawarden, Iowa. He's a senior. He had a career high 11 tackles, 2 sacks. He forced a fumble, also had a pass broken up. For a while, it seemed like every time we announced a tackle, every time we identified a tackler for Augustana, it was either Cade Lynott or Peyton Buckley. Man, they were all over the field on Saturday.
Absolutely.
The special teamer this week hails from Flower Mound, Texas. He's a senior place kicker for Winona State's Warriors. It's Jacob Scott. He was 3 for 3 on field goals, 4 for 4 on PATs, as Winona had a big win in the battle for the sledge rivalry with Southwest Minnesota State. Congratulations to Jared Epperson, Kate Leinot, Jacob Scott, the players of the week in the Northern Sun Intercollegiate Conference.
Yeah, let's go ahead and move on to the biggest game that we had in the conference. Two ranked squads. Tom, tell me a little bit more. What do we have here?
I can tell you that my son was in the booth with us. First time ever that he watched a football game from the press box.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he is an astute football fan. He was of the opinion Augustana doesn't win that game if they don't have zero. Jared Epperson. But, yeah, he was a big factor. But Gunnar Hensley hit Canyon Bauer for 44. He hit Jack Fisher for 51. They had 5 plays of 40 or more yards, big plays the Augustana offense did. They amassed over 500 yards, not quite, 487, nearly 500 yards of offense. And then Hayden Wallace came up with a big interception in that second half, deep in Augie territory. Camden Dean, the Cougar quarterback, I'm sure wants that pass back again. The Viking victory was a total team effort, but it was led by number 0, no doubt about it.
Yeah, and let's go ahead and we're going to pop in some of the video here, Tom. Take a quick look-see at this. And as we move on in, USF strikes first, has the ball, goes and scores. There's a fat guy taking video here that gets in the scene, apparently. And USF fans going crazy. Epperson's first carry, and he already gets loose. And I think USF thought that they had that run fit. And he just, snakes on out of it. Heck of a run. Here's the screen. And I was behind the play watching this, and I saw it open up, and I thought, he could have a long way to run here. And, only a last-ditch effort knocks him out of bounds. And then, 2 plays later, they go ahead and run a little bit of play action, and that's nicely done. They're up 14-7 here in the contest, and all of a sudden, they get the ball back pretty quickly before half and hit Canyon Bauer for a nice play, the South Dakota State transfer, almost for a score. Glow is saying, what happened to this half? Cougars down 10 at half, and then Rundigan goes ahead and strikes back as the Cougars, drive down and get this to within a 3-point game. Ball thrown a little bit behind the tight end, and, you go ahead and you get a pick there. I thought USF kind of had the momentum at that moment, Tom, and then kind of lost it. And then Epperson is bottled up, and you see him hit the Jets and kind of run away for the score here. And this was the kind of plays he was making. Now, Janis makes a great catch here to keep the Cougars alive. And they're down 6 with, about 5 minutes left. And Cougar fans are going crazy. But Augie did a really nice job of killing a whole lot of clock and moving the chains to the point where USF was at this point. And Augustana is going to go ahead and come away with the key. And, it was one of those games, Tom, where, if it goes another few minutes, maybe, USF has a chance. But you know what? Augustana, I thought, did a nice job in that last drive. Every time we really thought that maybe we would go ahead and see USF be able to get the ball back with time to strike, it didn't really happen. And, how much time was left when they got the ball back? 20-some seconds with no timeouts or something like that? Yeah,
the big play to me was at the 2-minute timeout, 3rd and 11 for Augustana. What are they going to do? They're going to run it so they can milk clock, or they're going to try and get the first down. Gunnar Hensley finds Jack Fisher on 3rd and 11 for 13 yards. They keep possession of the ball and wind the clock. They attempted a field goal at the end there. It was blocked, and the Cougars got it from their 20-yard line with probably 19 seconds to go. And as you mentioned, no timeouts, and clock ran out on them. But a great game, no doubt about it. 4,220 fans there. There should have been another 3,000 in the stands for that one because the NSIC lead was on the line.
Well, and Epperson with almost 300 yards from scrimmage himself, 202 on the ground, 75-yard screen as we saw. Lynott and Buckley both had great efforts. Buckley, I noticed, was following around or maybe just was paired up quite a bit with Mr. Slykehouse. I didn't think that was necessarily on accident, considering what a great defender Buckley is. So You know,
I would be remiss to say that in the final stages of that game, the Cougars were without their top two receiving threats. Slykehouse and Mark Leonard both left the game on the drive that resulted in the Janis touchdown. They were not available down the stretch. It cost them.
well, the Cougars didn't have the ball down the stretch, so wouldn't really have mattered at that point, probably. But unless they're going to play defense, because
No. Witt, they had the ball a little over 5 minutes to go, and they went 3 and out. Weren't able to.
I know, but I thought the Cougars had their chances earlier against Augustana when they had 11 first downs to 1 with 5 minutes left in the second quarter, and they just weren't able to make that more points. They had 7, and I thought Augustana really made them pay for what felt like USF controlling a great deal of the first half, despite the fact the scoreboard didn't say that. And I thought that was the turning point, them being up 10 at half. USF all of a sudden kind of goes, how did this happen? At least that's how I felt it was.
Well, in the second quarter, they started on the Augie side of the 50 twice and went 3 and out each time. Starting positions, the 47 and the 48-yard line got nothing. Those
yeah. Well, let's go ahead and kind of take a look, Tom, at what other action there was in the conference. There was some other rivalry games being played. This one here was the battle for the Yaks. You know, what was your kind of your take here?
My take was that Bemidji kept its playoff hopes alive by throttling a pretty good Moorhead offense. If you take a look at the stat page there, Jack Strand barely over 200 yards. He had no touchdown passes, and they got to him 6 times.
Yeah, you know, and I flipped this game on when I got home because I was just curious to see what it looked like, and Moorhead was up 14-0 right from the jump, and I was like, wow, okay, because we both thought Moorhead would win this game, and then the pass rush of Bemidji started to become the story of the day. And they've got, you know, they're as good at the line of scrimmage as just about anybody in the country. They're a very great, good offensive line veteran group that can go ahead and move the line. And then on the other side, they've got some great pass rushers. And them getting those 6 sacks just kind of changed things here. Bemidji was able to settle in a little bit and get themselves 14-9, you know, within that margin, and then they controlled the second half. And you know, this is a thing that was a needed win for Bemidji. The people have been talking about them a little bit for a little bit of time here, and now all of a sudden they're on this. You know, they're in the regional rankings, which we're going to see here in a minute, and they are very much alive in the playoff hunt.
Yeah, Bemidji, no doubt about it. All right, in the next one here, Mankato had Mankato had the offense clicking. That's Mankato there. That's gold. That's they ran roughshod over Mary at Blakesley.
Yes, and that's Christian Vassar. In case that's where you're going with that, and he scored in this game. Sam Backer led him in rushing with almost 100 yards. He also had a score, and they were able to run the ball well enough, Tom. And this is the kind of football that they want to play, where they go ahead and have over 200 rushing yards in the game because it allows them to be opportunistic in the passing game, and they certainly were here. Eckern 10 of 15 for 189 yards and 2 tuds. This is the style that they want to play. I'd really be curious if Mankato, you know, kind of finishes their climb and makes the playoffs. I would be interested to see them play a team outside the Northern Sun, because they really were able to kind of do their thing against a new opponent when they had Northwest Missouri State in the opener. And there's a part of me that thinks that the Mavs would love to play a team that doesn't already know their identity very well. So let's kind of wait and see on that. I mean, they still have a pretty good game upcoming just to make sure they're in the dance, but they took care of business and had a get-right offensive day, in my opinion, here.
Pretty good game upcoming. Yeah, we'll talk about that in a little bit. UMB is back in form.
Yeah.
Bulldogs won their 3rd in a row thanks to big days from Kyle Walljasper and the wide receiver by the name of Deshaun Ames. All he only did was catch 3 touchdown passes.
Yeah, and this is I need to give a lot of credit to Duluth here because their playoff hopes were probably crushed weeks ago. I mean, if we're going to be really frank with ourselves. And the fact that Coach Weesey has this group playing this hard, this good, and this is a dominant performance. I mean, just take a look at the total yards and the score. So I was impressed with that type of effort when they don't have a ton left to play for other than a winning record in this season and so forth, because they've had a lot of winning seasons in a row here. And now it kind of finishes up with them in Mankato. Pretty interesting at the end here.
Yeah. Moving right along now, Northern wrapped up its season. That's right. They're done. 11 games in the books for the Wolves. They won 6 of their last 7. They visited Wayne America on Saturday and pulled out a 28-21 decision. Again, our guy Jake Adams with a tackling machine, another double-digit output on defense.
Yeah, and as we take a look further at this, he's become a steady for them. But in looking a little bit further, you get Hank Kraft had a nice big game here. It was over 100 yards, a few scores. Northern really, this was their last game of the season. They don't have another game left. They've played 11. They did not have a bye week until now, just kind of the way the season worked out. And I really felt that, Coach Schmidt really had an awesome second half of the year. And I hope, some of the boo birds and the chirping that had been going on when they were 0-4 and talks about unrest with this program have kind of subsided, because this is still a fairly young football team, and I'll be interested to see what they can build, going forward with this.
And last but not least, Winona State easily took its rivalry game with SMSU, keeping those ponies winless.
Yeah, so and this is the sledge game and the battle for the sledge. It's now 7-1 Winona. They started this back in 15 when the two head coaches said, "Hey, we need to have a rivalry game." And so I forget how the sledge. I remember Coach Sawyer talked a little bit about this. I don't remember all the details, but we ended up with an 8-foot trophy, which is a very interesting trophy in this deal. I'll give it that. But Winona has played better than worse in this second half. And as we then take a look at Southwest, they're still looking to scratch a win this year. The offense has been a challenge all season long in regard to that identity. And Winona, I thought in the second half of the season was just flat out a better team than they were in the first. So, that kind of brings up the question, and I've got one of our folks in the comments asking about the rivalries in the Northern Sun, Tom. So I figured we'd take a look at this here briefly. And John Dykstra, who writes who's our MIAA columnist, he said, rank your top 3 Northern Sun rivalry games. Now, Tom, my first thought is the key to the city game is probably 1A and 1B, if we're going to be honest. It's quite a bit ahead of the others.
Agreed.
Now the Northern Sun lost a good rivalry game with St. Cloud and Mankato. They had the training kit. Exactly. We've got, what is it, the one this coming week with, what is it, Mary and Minot, the battle for Big River, is that it?
What's the battle for the paddle?
Well, I know what the battle for the Big River is. That's what I was talking about. Yeah. The battle for the paddle, isn't that one no more, or is that still one?
I don't pay attention to the rivalry game.
Oh,
you're the columnist for the conference.
Oh, okay. I thought you were throwing out there because you knew what it was. I'm sorry.
No, I did. I was asking.
So, in terms of the best ones, the Bemidji one to me is right up there with Bemidji and Moorhead with the Axe. I love the Axe. I love everything about that. Those teams seem to take it pretty darn seriously. Then from there, Winona and Mankato had a pretty good rivalry going there for a while, but it's not one of those where they're playing for the traveling trophy and so forth. So those are the ones that kind of come to mind for me in regards to the best ones. But clearly, I would say, the key to the city is far and away the top one. This game here, when one team has won all but one game, it doesn't feel that much like a rivalry at that point. So I still like the fact that they're playing for something here, though.
Yeah, I agree with you. Lloyd of Rosedale, Little Brown Jug.
Let's go ahead and kind of move on forward with our sponsor. I'll let you talk a little bit about them, Tom.
Yeah, the fine folks at Boss's Pizza and Chicken help us keep the lights on here at NSIC Weekly. And it's just natural that a guy who loves eating as much as I love shooting free throws should say a few words about Boss's Pizza and Chicken. So, Witt, you have at it.
Well, the floor is mine, and I want to make sure that for anyone in the Boss's areas, which is, the upper Northwest here, Northwest, the upper Midwest. What am I saying? Maybe they'll be in the Northwest before the year's over.
Geographical challenge.
Anyone who doesn't have the app already, and we've got some folks in the comments here, like Brad Koenig, but our guy Brad Koenig, Lakers, in the comments, he doesn't have a cell phone. It's kind of hard to have the app without that. So, Koenig, you're going to have to get a cell phone just so you can get the Boss's,
You can get apps for laptops.
Well, I don't know if that works. They don't all work on all devices. I don't know. You probably haven't run into that yet. But, and we got John Dykstra. We got Chad Berger in the comments. We have some others. Your guy Berger's in there, you bet. And so if they don't have the app already, you get 50% off your first order. I thought I'd point that on out. Now, some of us have already taken advantage of this deal. So I'm not saying, I'm just saying. But I also want to point out, our sponsor went ahead and they put this on the socials. I thought this was a fitting thing. Great company that we're going ahead and representing. And, for any of the folks in the comments who are veterans, we want to go ahead and kind of pay some tribute on forward while we're moving through the show.
Very good. Boss's Pizza and Chicken, thank you so much for being our corporate sponsor. Well, the D2 Top 25 has just 2 NSIC teams ranked as we head into the final weekend of the regular season.
And by the way, before we get there, Koenig went ahead and answered your question because he knows some of the old rivalries probably better than I do.
There we go.
Mary versus Moorhead is the battle for the paddle. See, when he said it, I was thinking Crookston in my head, but it was actually Mary and Moorhead. So, looking at here, the top 25, we're only down to 2 teams, Tom. The Sioux Falls, Wayne State, some of those guys who were in and out of there, Duluth.
How about
what was that?
Bemidji
as well. Just once you get to that 3-loss mark, you're not probably going to see yourself on the page very often. Now, Central Missouri and Fort Hays have both entered the chat with 3 losses. But that Central Missouri beat, they went down and beat Pitt State pretty badly at their place 2 weeks ago. And they also have the Harlan Hill, award winner, and Zach Zabrowski will probably win it again. And Fort Hays has beaten some squads along with Central Missouri. So now let's be real frank. This here does not make a whole lot of difference going forward because now we have the regional rankings we're going to be talking about, and we're not going to have to be, looking too much at the polls for entertainment purposes.
Who got your vote for number 1?
I'm still at Ferris State, only because, Valdosta went ahead and beat Delta State, which was their best win yet. But at the same time, that's not a top 25 team. So I'm not quite there yet with them, whereas Ferris State has really come on since I saw them in week 0 down at Pitt State.
Has your friendship with the coach at Valdosta State taken a little bit of a hit then since you're not boosting them?
Tremaine loves the fact that I don't have them as number 1. Loves that.
Billboard fodder.
Oh, they love playing the disrespect card. And you know what? A late comment for the Bosses, Tom, that our guy Berger wanted to throw on in. Witt likes Italian sausage. He's right on that. Are you a pepperoni guy? I don't know this.
I like pepperoni. Yeah, I like Italian sausage as well. I know you're not a pepperoni guy after what that pepperoni pizza did to you last year at the.
Well, you know what? I still eat Italian sausage, pepperoni pizzas. I like those are my 2 ingredients. When we had the Bosses and we doubled up on the pepperoni and it was spicy. I could have done without that, and probably not going to go out of my way on that at this point either. But let's go ahead and move on and take a look at where we're at in the conference standings. Tom, we talk about Augustana. They can do no worse than being a share for the conference championship, right?
they clinched a share right now. A win on Saturday gives them back-to-back outright titles. If Mankato beats Duluth and Augie stubs its toe at Bemidji, the Mavs would have the same mark as Augustana. But since Augie beat them head-to-head, in my mind, Augie's the champ.
That's exactly my thoughts right there. I'm not a huge fan of let's find a way to have 3 conference champions. We've had that, frankly, too often in this conference. And Augustana has beaten Mankato head-to-head. To me, this is fairly clear-cut at this point, but I know that's not the world of giving out trophies that we live in right now.
No, that's for sure. Ribbons and trophies.
And we have this in here just for some folks who, in case you don't see the Sunday night show, and maybe you only kind of live in your own conference worlds with regard to our programming, we did have this was be our graphic that we had for our show this last Sunday. There's Jared Epperson running for that first score, and we will go ahead and break down the biggest games, top 25 action, how everything looks, big picture, on that Sunday evening show. So if you're not watching it, go ahead and make sure you tune in if you can't get enough of D2 football stuff. Once again, that's Sunday evenings. Tom, I know that you're a regular viewer.
I keep on forgetting it's on, Witt. I'm sorry.
I know Mr. Ed and Bonanza and everything else are all over your television.
I think I got to set my TiVo.
Something like that.
The NCAA Division II playoff field will be announced this coming Sunday. Top 7 in each of the 4 super regions make the party. The top seeds in each of those regions get byes. The other 6 play in the opening round on November 23rd. And it's time for Sir Witsalot to give us a deep dive into this week's look at the regional rankings, specifically for Super Region 4 here in a little bit. But give us an overall purview, would you?
Yeah, and I have the mic on there just because on last Thursday, I had some time on my hands and was kind of curious about why we had seen the regional rankings in a certain light the way we did. And it made me wonder if the KPI, the Kevin Pauga Index, which we referenced in weeks previous to this, was becoming a real thing and being utilized quite a bit. Now, the NCAA on their website has a worksheet that says exactly kind of chapter and verse what measures are being used. And the Kevin Pauga Index is not listed on there. So that caused me for concern. And I decided I would reach on out with, Dennis Francois, the chair of the championship committee here for all the groups. And he is the athletic director at Central Washington. You can see who is on the Super Region for this list here. And I want to be very clear that anybody on this list, whether it's athletic directors or head coaches, they are not able to talk about their own team during these meetings. So it's not one of those things that all of a sudden they're going to be able to curry favor with their team. It's not like that. These are folks who are taking time out and going ahead and choosing to be a part of this. And Dennis and I had about a 45-minute conversation about the criteria and things of that sort. And I made him aware of the fact that Chuck Bittner and I on our national show, each Sunday morning, he and I go ahead and we do our own. Each super region, we figure out who we think will be in the top 10. And based on the criteria that's been provided, including the KPI. And, then we go ahead and he and I collaborate on that for our Sunday night show for our projections. And Dennis was I was thrilled with the fact that he was willing to make some time for me on this. He was probably surprised that someone had this level of nerdiness to inquire about it, to be perfectly honest. He doesn't know us well enough then. But no, so some of the takeaways I had, though, were the fact that things like a bad loss is being looked at, despite the fact the criteria doesn't mention anything about bad losses. They're making note of that. And at the same time, this KPI is becoming a big factor. And they did a little bit of a beta test at the end of last year and really thought that was capturing a lot of what they would have had with results, and that it was a really good tool. And so it was a very good chat that I had with him. And I think it allowed us to further drill down exactly how the committee was going to be using this KPI index. And I thought that was a good thing for us to find out. So that brings us to the release that we had today at 3 p.m. And the release is right here. And our projections were exactly the correct 1 through 8. And then Western Oregon, we had at the 9 spot. And then we had Mesa. Well, the committee apparently favored Colorado Mines over Western Oregon there, which surprised us a little bit because Colorado Mines doesn't have a whole lot to hang their hat on with regard to wins over 500 or strength of schedule and so forth, and they have another loss. But Western Oregon, is a little bit below them, namely because of that KPI that we talked about last week on the far right side of the page. And, when you're talking about who's on the 10 line, it's not that big a deal anyway, because you need a whole lot of help when there's only 1 week left. So some of the things that we notice right from the top, Tom, Pueblo feels like, it's got to feel like you're in a pretty good spot at that 1 line. However, they're going to lose some strength of schedule and KPI by playing a 3-win Chadron team, while Augustana is going to play a team that's got 7 wins with Bemidji. And those two are going to have a very similar resume if they were to both win out. So it may be pretty interesting there. And so that gives you a question.
Yes. Do you see Augustana surpassing Pueblo? Should CSU stub its toe against Chadron?
If they lose to Chadron, Pueblo falls out of the 1 spot for sure.
Sure.
I'm talking about if they both win.
Okay.
Augie could still end up getting on the 1 line because of the fact that they will be undefeated against 500 or better teams. Mm-hmm. They will probably be a little bit higher in KPI at that point, which is being heavily emphasized. So I think that it's going to be so close that things such as Pueblo playing 1 more game against D2 opponents might make a difference. Pueblo losing to Grand Valley only, and Augie's loss in D2 was to Moorhead. So I think if it goes that deep, I think Pueblo still ends up on the 1 line. But Augustana and the Northern Sun, there's a lot of teams on the page from the Northern Sun here as well. So I could see it going either direction. But I think Augie has a chance to be on that 1 line and needs to play like that too. Now, as we move down from there, there's a bit of separation, Tom. Because we start moving to the 2 loss teams, along with Western Colorado, who's got a strength of schedule that's low enough that they might as well be a 2-loss team. So Augustana clearly at the 2. Mankato is just barely holding off Angelo State, who it looks like, I believe, no, they are the Lone Star champ now. So as we look at that there, Angelo State's catching up as they have been playing more difficult teams. But I think that's as far up as they're going to get, because they don't have a chance to advance further with a team like West Texas, whereas Mankato has to play at Duluth. So then from there, Western Colorado's strength of schedule and KPI is hurting them. That's why they are at 5 as opposed to maybe the 3 line. Central Washington has not moved at all. That's exactly where they were a week ago. Bemidji State moves up from 10th or unranked, one of the 2, all the way up to 7, because everybody who was at Sioux Falls or behind lost last week. So Sioux Falls lost, Mesa lost, Mines lost, Western Oregon lost. So all of a sudden, Bemidji, a 3-loss team, and I had kind of mentioned this, Tom, that I thought there was a real chance a 3-loss squad was going to make the playoffs, and it looks like they are going to. So Bemidji is not as good statistically on the page as Sioux Falls. However, Bemidji is ahead of them because of a head-to-head, and they would be right next to each other. Now, Bemidji, they win, they're in. They lose, they're going to be gone. And Sioux Falls, obviously with SMSU, you would assume that they win that football game. So if you're Sioux Falls, you need Bemidji State to get out of the way. Okay? If you're Bemidji State, I think with a win there in period, I think they control their own destiny there. Then you have teams like Colorado Mesa, who's kind of laying in the weeds here, Tom, because they get a chance to play Western Colorado, who's fifth on the page.
Right.
They can bump their resume. So if you're a fan of a team like a USF, for example, you can't all of a sudden just get comfortable and think, well, all you need is Bemidji, because Colorado Mesa can go ahead and catch up themselves. So there's a whole lot that's still going on this page. Not to mention, how about if we looked at things like if Mankato lost to Duluth?
Yeah.
Mankato's now got 3 losses, and they have become a part of a conversation with Bemidji State and Sioux Falls, and that kind of muddies things up quite a bit. And Mankato lost last year in their season finale to Duluth, and this one's up there, and there is a lot of dislike between those two football teams. So, there's still a lot left here to play out. Now, Tom, you're a fresh set of eyes on this week's regional rankings. What are some of the things that kind of jump out to you, or have you thinking questions or what have you?
So if Mankato, Bemidji, and Sioux Falls all finish with 3 losses, it's been a little bit of a round robin there. Sioux Falls beat Mankato, Mankato beat Bemidji, Bemidji beat Sioux Falls, and the number crunching is going to be ridiculous. And then the Cougars have to have their eye on the rearview mirror for Mesa. But then again, let me ask you this. Mine's at 10. Fort Lewis, traditionally not a very good football program. Their strength of schedule got to be nearly as poor as Southwest Minnesota State, I would think. So a win for Colorado Mines isn't going to bump them terribly, right?
No, I think Colorado Mines is stuck.
Okay.
And they would need everybody in front of them to collapse, in my opinion, because they're not going to gain anything by that Fort Lewis win. If anything, they will lose strength of schedule and KPI because of the opponent.
Well, this thing's going to get blown up. If you ask me, if Mankato loses to Duluth and Bemidji beats Augie,
it'll get wild.
Yeah, it's going to be nuts. Going to be nuts.
By the way, our friend Berger is offering some thoughts on this. Kevin Paga owes you guys tons of money for how much you mentioned this KPI. And Berger, I think, only found out about that KPI last night. So I'm just joking. Berger, it's probably the day before. But let's see. We've got some other folks who are in the comments kind of looking at, what's happening here on the page and so forth. Let's go ahead and Armo, who is our former GAC writer. If it works out that USF gets in the playoffs and the MIAA teams are seeded, meaning like they would have a home game, think the committee might actually give something like USF versus an MIAA team and a GAC team versus Angelo. What he's trying to get at here is the idea of not having as many flights. So, Tom, let's say USF got matched up and people were thinking, okay, they're going to have to go to Angelo. Well, that's a flight. But if you can get rid of a flight, if you went ahead and had, like, let's say USF go down and play at Pitt State, which I'm
go back there.
And, well, keep in mind, you'd be bringing this year's team back to Pitt State,
true.
Not last year's team.
It's a heck of a journey, though. I can tell you it's a long jaunt.
Right, but then, for example, you could end up having a team like a Harding, who's ranked 6th right now, Tom, in Super Region 3. They could trade and end up playing in Angelo. So, I mean, with this flight thing, until you find out who the final 28 teams are, you never know if some of that could happen. And, I think it's interesting. I mean, if you had like a Pitt State, for example, if they end up losing their last week of the season in Northwest Missouri State, who knows? Maybe they're coming on up to an Augie, or they're coming up to a Mankato. And, Tom, with as often as we have these matchups within the conference come the playoffs, give me all of those scenarios with an MIAA or somebody else. I just want to see new matchups, new games. I don't want to see repeat games anymore if I can help it.
I understand. Me too.
It's gotten to the point where it's almost bothersome. Now, One other thing I kind of want to mention here, and Tom, we've talked about in this call, the KPI. Look to the far right, Tom, if you would, in that KPI column.
Check.
They're almost going almost in order. So you can see kind of some of that influence there because it goes Pueblo, then Augie, then Angelo, not quite there yet, but their strength of schedule is lower also to the left side. So that kind of balances each other out a little bit. And I don't think they wanted to move Mankato off that 3 line unless it was something a clear-cut reason. But then when you move further down the page, that's where that Western Oregon gets hurt. That 166 for KPI, even though they only got 1 loss, that's just not a good look. So we still have some things in play, Tom. Right now, if the season started today, Augustana would be hosting a game, Mankato would be hosting a game, and Angelo would be hosting a game. And currently you would have Bemidji going ahead and traveling, and they'd either go to Augustana or Mankato, because keep in mind 5, 6, and 7 are not seeded at that point, and they could travel anywhere. So you would like to think that they'll probably try and do it in a way that would be leave the other Northern Sun team available to be closer to geography with some of the other schools that are further south. That would probably leave Augie being the one, I'm guessing. But, there's still so much to be figured out. And Tom, just one result can change the whole equation about where people are going and so forth.
These regional rankings, it kind of blows my mind. You've got Harding in your poll, the D2 top 25, 5th in the nation, based on their strength of schedule and who they've played and their record. Yet they're the 6th team in Super Region 3.
Here's why. They lost to Ouachita Baptist. Ouachita Baptist is on the 5 line with 1 loss, and so is Harding with 1 loss. So they're getting trapped in regards to that tiebreaker thing, and they're getting stuck there because they're behind Pitt State. But Tom, here's the other thing. Is Super Region, if we were to go ahead for just one moment and, talk a little bit about the big picture for the poll, and keep in mind, obviously the poll is a different measure altogether than the regional rankings. Criteria, one's different, one's opinions. But take a look at Super Region 3, Tom. You just mentioned them. You got Ferris State. They're in Super Region 3. That's where we're at the top there. Got Grand Valley. We got Harding. You got 3 teams right there in the mix that are all in Super Region 3. Then look at 7 and 8. So 5 of the top 8 teams in our poll are all in Super Region 3. And then from there, what is it, number 12 from that spot? So, I mean, you're moving through here, then 16. So the entire Super Region 3 is within the top 16 teams in the country in our poll. So it speaks to how much Super Region 3 is really jammed up. And this is not a new thing. It's been going on for the last few years. But the nice thing is next year, there's going to be a small change to how that it all is. And you will see Super Region with the Northern Sun, they will be in with the GLIAC, for example, with Grand Valley and Ferris. So you're going to see a little bit of a change that way. We're not going to get into all that here tonight because that's essentially a next year thing. But I think this will get a little bit better in terms of trying to level the playing field off where you don't have potentially 3 of the top 5 all in the same Super Region.
I'm sure glad you comprehend this because my head is ready to about explode. You know what I mean, man? It's ready to...
Well, so once again, the top 7 are the ones who make it. There'll be a show on Sunday evening in regards to this, right around 5, 6 o'clock, where they're going to announce the field after the game results. That's Sunday. And they'll go ahead and have all that laid out for us. So at this time, this is the last time I'm going to have to speculate anything on any shows because of the fact that the next time we see this, we're going to already have all those results.
This Sunday, I may just have to make a concerted effort to watch your Sunday night show.
And maybe they'll even talk about KPI since we have so much,
Thanks, Kevin Paga, whoever you are.
All right. Yeah. So, what's going to be funny, Tom, is when they mention this during the NCAA March Madness, because he gets a little bit of love at that point, too.
Yeah. All right. Guess what's next? The Pick'em segment. And truth be told here, I can't catch Witt. If we're just doing it by the book, I can't catch him. And even the Commodore 64 computer of Massey is beyond my reach. But you kind of jiggered the system a little bit to make it a little more interesting.
We did last week. The beat writer for Mankato, Chad Courier, always entertaining, dry sense of humor. Yeah, well, that's giving him the benefit of the doubt. He ended up getting 4 right for you in addition to your own picks. So since you were down so much, we counted them towards your total. And Tom, in reality, if we added 4 to what you have, you would have 51 right and only be chasing me by how many? 3. So I'm sure you'll make it up this week. We'll see.
I want to point out I did have the best record of anybody last week.
Well, that's why our producer did put it in yellow in a way to try and draw attention to that.
I appreciate
we haven't had to use the yellow in your area all that often this year, so it was a good time to do that.
All right, let's preview the week ahead, shall we?
Let's do that.
Let's get started with game 1, high noon, Bismarck, North Dakota on Saturday. MSU Moorhead at the University of Mary. The Dragons of Moorhead favored by 14, and I highly suspect they'll cover that and then some.
Yeah, I think Moorhead should roll in this game, but at the same time, Moorhead has not been awesome on the road, Tom. And if we go ahead and we're looking at this, we should say, okay, maybe this is the week. But you know what? That Mary gets the win. I'm still going to go ahead and stay Moorhead in this one myself.
Thank you very much. Mankato is at Duluth, high noon at Molosky Field. In the 12 years we've been covering the NSIC, Witt, you and I came in together back in 2012. The Mavericks lead the league with 114 victories, 15 losses. The Bulldogs are second with 107 wins, 22 defeats. In this game, UMD playing at home, favored by 3. But Witt, there is no home field advantage in the Northern Sun this fall. Visiting squads have won 29 times, home teams 27 times.
Okay.
How do you like them apples?
I love it when you bring in the stats. And these are actually relevant ones, not like the ones you normally bring in. So I like that.
My gut tells me home team's going to win this one. I'm going with UMD.
Oh, look at you go. Okay. I wouldn't be surprised at all by that. I think that Duluth defends the run well. And would be a problem for Mankato that way. I just feel like Mankato maybe got some things right. They got some guys back from injury, a little bit of help on the O-line, stuff like that. I just think that Mankato's not going to let this happen 2 years in a row where they lose to Duluth in the finale. So I'm going to take Mankato in a close one, and that we have that one different, don't we?
We do.
Okay.
Next up, Concordia St. Paul at Wayne State. They conclude their season in Wayne America, the two teams. The Wildcats, 21-point favorites, according to Massey. Wayne should and will win, but it's going to be less than 21. Definitely.
You know what? If Concordia hadn't had such a rough outing this last week against Duluth, I would have felt a lot better about taking them in this one and having success running the football. Because Wayne State, it just seems like they're on a bad slide here. But I don't have them covering 21, that's for sure. But I will take Wayne State, on senior day to go out the right way with Mr. Bowen and company. And I will take Wayne State to win this.
You pronounced it correctly. Thank you. Winona puts a wrap on its campaign by traveling to Minot State. The visiting Warriors are favored by 8 if you have Massey stock. Well,
you kind of have to go with the Vikings now that you're on that. They feel like you're on the bandwagon now, Tom.
No, I'm not doing the Augustana Bemidji game. I'm saving that one. I went to
Winona. Okay. I thought you were going big on that. Okay.
No, I went to Winona Minot here.
Okay. Well, so are you have some thoughts here that you're going to go with the option after getting a week of preparation?
I think Minot ends the year on a high note with a win at home.
Oh.
Yep.
Now, okay then. Minot has lost 6 of their last 7 since Ian Shields came on the show.
But competitive.
Absolutely no chance he comes on the show next year after that.
Competitive.
What's that?
They've been competitive.
They have, but they're still catching the L. And boy, I'm not encouraged by how Winona gave up 200 and some yards to a quarterback rushing the football 2 weeks ago. Boy. I'll go with Winona just to give you a chance to make it back in the deal. Bergie, you've come through for me at home. On the road, not so much. Come on, need a road win here, Bergie.
Lay it at the coach's doorstep.
Yes, it's on him at this point.
USF is hosting Southwest Minnesota State. Last year, Sioux Falls went over to Southwest and laid an egg. I'd be 28-10. Cougars, if Massey can be believed, are favored by 30. They're not going to cover that, but I am confident they will complete the full circle turnaround from 3 wins, 8 losses last year to 8 wins, 3 losses this year.
Now, I know USF got dinged up at some of the skills offensively at the end of that game. I still think that they're going to cover that number. Let's be honest. This is a get-back game after they laid the egg last year at the end in the season finale, and they looked rough in that game, and that should be enough motivation just by itself to try and set the record straight in this matchup. Otherwise, I don't. If you Sioux Falls, you can't be scoreboard watching. You just got to take care of business. So right now, do we have 2 different? Is that where we're at, buddy?
I've got the UMD Mankato and the Minot Winona games are the differing choices.
Okay, so let's go to the ever coveted NSIC Weekly Witt Tale of the Tape.
The game of the day.
This is what people show up for here. So for those who are new, because we got people in the comments here who have never seen the methodology and the science, this system here is you get 2 X's in a category if you're very good at it. You're capable, you get the 1 X. If you don't get any, then that'd be a category that you would be deficient, like a running game like Moorhead. They obviously would not get 1 in the running game category. So let's go ahead and that's no me throwing shade at Moorhead. Momentum, Augustana's got it. They've won a bunch of games in a row, but Bemidji's won a few in a row. Rushing offense, just on Epperson alone, and what a game changer he can be. He gives them the nod there. Passing offense, they're both capable passing teams, haven't been great passing teams. Total offense going to give the nod to Augustana. Rushing defense, Augustana is the best in the league at the rushing defense side of things. But Bemidji State's right there, too. Bemidji State gets to the quarterback a lot and is right now as good as anybody at defending the pass in this league. I'm going to call the defenses. I'm actually going to call that even for that reason. The bigger stakes in this game and the most to play for, Augie, I think, already realizes that they're in. That said, they're playing for a home playoff game and not risking that. But Bemidji State's fighting for their lives to extend this season for their football team. That's a little bit different deal. And they're at home. Now, the weather conditions, Tom, are supposed to be not a whole lot different than what this was last week in Sioux Falls for the Key to the City game. Right around 50 degrees, overcast, but there's no snow or any of that in the forecast. So I think that part is maybe a little bit advantage Augustana because Bemidji is very accustomed to playing in some poor conditions up there. So it's Augie 12, Bemidji 11 in terms of the methodology, the tried and true methodology of the tail of the tape. Now, I did not go with the tail of the tape last week. I allowed myself to go with the fact that I had been picking against one team a lot and thought I was on the wrong side too often. So that said, I'm going with Augustana to win on the road, and I'm trusting the tail of the tape and the methodology, and I have them winning a close game 31-24. How do you see this one yourself?
Couple of questions.
Are you questioning the methodology?
Yeah. Is bigger stakes the new category?
It is. That
Yeah.
it got added for this week. That's a good observation.
Thank you very much. I hadn't seen that before. And you're going with the team that is blank in 2 categories.
It's 12-11. It's a
I
math
know.
thing.
I
Tom.
counted them up. I added. I can do
Okay.
that.
You've been poo-pooing this segment for a while, so we're getting it back on track.
Massey says Augustana is a narrow 3-point favorite.
By the way, while you think about that,
I got my
your announcer buddy from the sidelines is piping in here, saying that there's absolutely no methodology or in science at all. Stop being such a professor here, Berger. These X's need to go. Listen, you worry about atomic wings in your show, Berger, and we're going to have the X's on this one.
I'm going with Augustana to win this one. On the road, they're going to be the outright NSIC champions for a second consecutive
So
year.
you're not trying to tie me up. You're staying on the Augie bandwagon. Wacha. You're on the bandwagon with Augie.
No, I'm picking the team who I think is going to win. You got to have some.
Oh, wait, I see what's happening here.
Yeah.
You need for Augustana to beat the Bemidji for the Cougars to get in. So it's like a reverse thing. I see what it is.
For psychology. That's exactly what it is, Dr. Freud.
Glow might even let you back on the bus after that one.
Jeez. God.
Somebody, I'll call and explain to Glow what just happened there.
I want to
I'm not
ask
sure
you a
if he'll
couple
follow.
questions now here before we leave the NSIC and go to your next category, okay?
Yes.
Next week, they're going to make the announcement of the all-conference team in the NSIC. They're going to have the offensive player of the week, the defensive player, I should say offensive player of the year, the defensive player of the year, and the coach of the year. Do you have an opinion on who those choices might be? And if you had a vote, who would your vote go to?
Well, without having given a lick of thought, because I've been knee deep in regional rankings, and not player awards.
We've done the NSIC Weekly podcast for 11 weeks now. You should have a good.
It's felt like longer, but
good foundation of who is in the running for all of these awards.
My first thought is Glow is the head coach of the year.
Me too.
Chad Courier said that a week ago, and I hadn't given a lick of thought until he said it, and I think he's right.
Yep.
And this is not about, Coach Oshevsky's done a tremendous job, and he's been on our show, friend of the show, great guy. I would just give it to Glow with the turnaround he had with them. I mentioned it before. I felt like a year ago they were like almost like a glorified expansion team with what happened in that 30-day window before they had new leadership. And I think for him to make that big of a change year to year is absolutely dramatic. Now, what were the other questions?
Offensive and defensive players of the year.
Offensive player of the year. I don't know if I'm just automatically on Jack Strand.
Epperson.
I think Epperson coming on the way he did at the end here is hard to deny. Yeah, I have to think about that a little bit more, but I think that he's a front runner, that's for sure. Now, where were you going with the defensive player of the year next?
Yeah, that's the only one left. Yeah, I gave you 3 options.
I think Adams from Northern State probably has to be the guy, doesn't he? I mean, who else is? I mean, there hasn't been a guy who's at like 15 sacks or something like that to really stand out to that point.
But last year's defensive player of the year, Marcus Hansen, does lead the league in sacks again, but Jake Adams has by far and away more tackles than anybody else in the country. He's got like over 140 tackles. Nobody's even to 90 yet.
Yeah.
He's been a heat-seeking missile on defense for Northern State. I got to go with Jake Adams too. Epperson, Adams, and Glagowski, my 3 picks there.
By the way, before we move on from this graphic and great bit and methodology I have, our MIAA guy, John Dykstra, mentioned, because we did this on the MIAA show also, and he said Sobrowski got 3 X's from Witt earlier this year. Damn right he did. And he will probably reference it in his Harlan Hill speech. And if he doesn't, then we're going to have a talk with his coach, who was on with us before. So he knows the deal here. That's all I'm saying.
All right. After a dry spell in selecting a fan of the NSIC
Yes.
Weekly podcast, the polls have closed and we have a winner chicken dinner.
Yeah, now you would have had a chance to announce his game. Javion Farr is a huge fan of the show, has been for a few years. He will come find me after games. Super engaging guy, great guy. I got a chance to meet his family, after a game a few weeks ago, and because of the fact that this is the true spirit of fan of the week in regards to this show. Right after the game, after going and getting the key to the city, who does he go give a hard time to? He comes over to my big butt and decides that he's going to give me a hard time about picking, against them. And he says it all, in with a good joke. Now, he also notices that Jared Epperson was on my fantasy team and went for big points, despite the fact I'm completely out of the running. And he did mention, as did many other people, couldn't believe your partner picked Augustana. One of the coaches even went over to me and mentioned that. So I had to defend your honor quite a bit on the field today, on Saturday. I just thought I'd say that.
Defend my honor to who? I mean, I went with
a lot of people were thinking that how can Mr. USF go ahead and do these and pick against his team?
Credibility on the line. I'm not a homer.
I agree. I agree. But also in the shot, longtime D2 supporter Chris Kaufman, Mankato grad, who worked down at USD, also worked out at Utah State. Now he's back home in Sioux Falls, where he's from, and he's on staff with Augustana, assistant AD, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, and does their ticketing and all that stuff. Super guy. He and I were chatting right after the game, and Javion came on over, Epperson came on over, and this is why this guy is our fan of the week. I'm going to go ahead and get him a shirt for the Northern NSIC Weekly. He will wear it proud, no different than you did at his game when they played at South Dakota State.
You betcha. And now, guess what? Is it time for that weekly installment of the world famous NSIC Jeopardy?
Yeah. Now, what's funny is a lot of the comments section, because we have a lot of people in the comments section, Tom. We've probably got over 50 comments here. I just don't read them to you because, we're just trying to keep the ship going straight. They may not be aware of this bit that we do here. So I'm going to kind of walk him into this. So for those who haven't seen what we do here on the Northern Sun Weekly, Tom and I have been doing this show for a good long time now, years now. Feels longer, but and Tom, okay. So Tom and I used to do trivia, and he's a huge fan of the show Jeopardy. So we do our NSIC Weekly Jeopardy, where I put up former stars of the Northern Sun. And Tom, we have to see how many Tom can get right in a given week. Now, Tom, you've been cleaning up lately, so I had to go a little tougher than what I've done recently. Now, I think that you're up for the task, but we're going to find out here shortly. Now, we do have a comments section live, so this will be kind of interesting if any of the folks in the comments are able to ring in. But I'm going to start off here, Tom. Running back for Winona, star player, the top running back, went for you, point of reference, when Sioux Falls just entered the league. He is going for a long run here against Lindenwood of the MIAA at that point, okay, back when USF and Lindenwood had just come to D2. Mega star, I think he was Offensive Player of the Year the first year that you would have been in the Northern Sun here, Tom. So for those who haven't had a chance to see kind of how we do this, we give Tom a chance to think a little bit here. This puts your head in the right spot, doesn't it?
It does. And I believe the right spot goes by the name Rayon Simmons.
Hi-oh! Well, see, somehow you've gotten smarter during this segment about old players. Either that or you've made a point of studying like all conference teams on some of those walks when you have the two deep. I don't know which just yet.
Where am I going to find pictures of these guys?
I don't know. I'm just putting it out there. So the comment section, I don't know if they're supporting you, if they're going to be against you. By the way, Javion Farr is in the comments right now. So he said first time a player is fan of the week. That's exactly right. That's where this bit has gotten to, Javion, where we have to tap into players to give them, to merch. That's how much our merch is in demand, apparently.
We'll save him some coins at the laundry too. He's got another T-shirt to put in his arsenal.
See the excitement? People have been waiting for the bit. Kelly Skolton, coach of Augustana D-line. He said, I really like that bit that you do with Tom at the end of the show with the old players. I said, because he misses all of them? He said, no, it's just funny.
1 for 1 today, baby.
Tom is heating up. Here we go.
Cooking with gas.
Yeah, whatever. Okay, so they're your 1-0. This one here, guy from Concordia who played in the NFL. He would have been playing with them just before COVID at Concordia. Defensive end, ended up becoming a edge rusher for the Rams.
Cue the music. I need the music.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't get you in your right state of mind.
Chris Garrett.
Hi-oh! Business is picking up here, Tom. 2-0 so far. Now, keep in mind, any coaches that are watching this are going, okay, this is shooting fish in a barrel at this point, but we'll just go along with it.
Coaches don't know names. They just know guys by their number.
That's a great point, actually, because that's how they watch film.
Yep.
But
Uh-oh.
Anytime when somebody shows with a SMSU, you give me an uh-oh.
Well, I just don't like the jerseys again.
Okay, so number zero.
Okay.
For SMSU, right before COVID, if my memory serves me right, averaged like 100 tackles a year for a while. An undersized linebacker.
That's Ante Burns.
He in typical Tom fashion, he hits the answer as I'm just about to start creating some level of suspense. Hi-oh! Now you're 3-0 so far, so I'm going to have to start getting into the deep cuts here in a minute because you're this is a few weeks in a row that you've done better than expectation.
Thank you. I think.
Yes. If there was going to be an all-Witt team for the last season, or last 10 years, this guy would be on the all-Witt team for sure. An absolute, Swiss Army knife of a player. Now, he's cutting up the Cougars right there in the middle of that run. You can see Tucker Stout in the back watching this, not liking what's happening. What do you got for me here? Winona, just before COVID, who is it?
Cue the music.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm so ready for you to jump on it.
That's Ballou.
Jacob Ballou for the win. Hi-oh! Outstanding slot, punt return, kick return. You name it. Give me a jet sweep. So now we're 4-0. Look out if you get every question right in this bit. In our last show together of the season, because, next week we're going to be doing super region stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and if you can pull this off, I tell you, it would be a heck of a way to finish.
Are you telling me that this is the last show that I'm contracted to do?
Yes, absolutely right, because the super region ones start next week. Apparently you hadn't quite figured that out. The same thing as last year. That's how this works.
So the paycheck runs out after today.
Something like that. So let me check the comments to see if there's any snickering or giving you guys any hard time. Okay, so as we're looking at it here, John Dykstra has a thought, by the way. Perfect week should have Witt by Tom dinner at Boss's. Okay, this is about the time we need this bit to go sideways. Okay, defensive lineman Mankato, all-conference player. You can see him at the national championship game there on the left. He's wearing all kinds of makeup there on the front. Also coached at the University of Sioux Falls.
Michael Buteau.
Would you have gotten it if I wouldn't have given you that last part?
I was guessing between Buteau and Braden Thomas. Those were my two guesses, but you narrowed it for me. Thank you very much.
Braden Thomas, a little bit different physique, but Buteau will probably not be happy about me saying that because Buteau didn't quite have those Hulk Hogan biceps, but hi-oh! I'm losing track of how many you're getting right here. This thing is
5 for 5.
This is going wild. I'm glad I have some that get a little tougher here as we turn the corner on the final stretch.
I thought you usually only do 5. You're really going.
No, we've done more than that. Don't try and quit while you're ahead. I believe at one point, I don't know if he's still the leading career receptions guy for Moorhead. Right before COVID, I'm going to say that this guy was about 5'8", but caught, I want to say over 300 passes while at Moorhead, over 3,000 yards. And don't quote me on that number. It may only have been like 250 catches, but he was a guy who was catching tons of balls for them before this last group of guys came on in. Hold on, I'll give you some music so you can think about it. I'm sure you're merely looking up things online as we speak on the Dragons website.
Google, baby. I think his first name is Ryan. I think his last name is Bieberdorf.
I wanted to let that go just a little bit more. Grady Bresnahan.
Oh, yes. Yep.
Thank God. Okay, all is right in the world again. So you finally got one wrong. Here we go. Speaking of some arms, leading tackler for the Vikings right after COVID. We always talked about, Mr. Eli Weber on this defense. Sometimes this guy ended up getting a little bit overshadowed, but was a guy who would average 10 tackles for them a game for a few years. Middle backer. I can tell. Okay, hold on. Let me help your thinking. Stop looking on your computer.
The computer's in front of me with the camera on me. I'm not.
Or your phone or whatever it is. I'm starting to feel like you're cheating a bit more than you're cheating the bit.
I'm writing the answers down. See?
What do you got?
Kirby Hora.
Kirby Hora was well before that.
Okay.
This is T.J. Liggett.
Oh yeah. Okay. I remember the name.
I'm surprised Javion Farr didn't have that in the comments as the answer. He could have helped you out there, but apparently not.
I didn't get to see the comments.
I know. Well, if he would have gotten it, he would have had that on there. I would have probably said something. Berger is going to chime in here. Your radio guy. This is painful to watch. Berger, don't get me started. You don't get me started.
I knew that was coming.
Okay, so
Oh gosh.
I think we have one last final one left.
Well, since this is the last show, let's blow it out, baby.
Augustana quarterback that followed Trey Hyde in his career. 2017. This is before Sadler got going. Who was the one-year quarterback they had, the starter? What do you think? Transferred in from Tulsa, I think.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Okay. T.J. Rubley,
I think it's Ryan Rubley.
but it's his dad.
I'll give you Rubley just on that alone, right there. So, you know what? You ended strong, my guy. Nice work there. I'm very impressed.
6 out of 8. 6 out of 8.
And you know what? That's the best you've done the whole time. So, and by the way, Javion Farr has got a thought for you here. in regards to Kirby Hora. He was a senior when TJ was a freshman. I like the fact that he's able to go ahead and kind of throw in some stuff here for us. I like that. But great having everybody on in the comments section. You guys, I really appreciate all of that. By the way, Javion tells me that he's a size large, so I hope you're writing that down, Tom.
Well, my Javion, I'm a size large as well.
Yeah, I'm not even touching that. But it was, guys, it was fantastic having everybody here for a live show. Greatly appreciate it. We had a lot of time to go through the regional rankings and so forth and the Northern Sun action. Tom, I wanted to tell you that I appreciate you being on with me this whole time for the Northern Sun all year. We're now moving into the super region stuff, and you've got basketball, and we kind of go ahead and just kind of bring things together with the other shows. So I'm not going to have you on the hook for all of that, but you know what? I think we've had a lot of fun through all this this part in the year. And you know what we will probably end up doing is when we go ahead and do some of that predictions for the super regions and we go through who's picked what, I may still tap into you and go ahead and get some of your picks and go ahead and have them on the show, because I think people are going to want to go ahead and find out. And my MIAA host just thought that he would chime in and say, Witt never thanked me. Yeah, but John, I still have to deal with you for the next few weeks, so that you're not going anywhere. So that's another story.
You may want to rethink having me on for any picks segment. That hasn't worked well for me.
Well, nonetheless, but
in my
for
pleasure
everyone
to be your sidekick for the last 3 years doing this.
Yeah, so this has been a fun deal, and we're going to go ahead and kind of see our way out. And thank you, everyone, for tuning on in.